You know, a lot of people ask me how I could have gone through so much of what I went through. The loss of my father at a young age, being in a hospital for a long time, not being able to walk for months on end, not being able to go to the bathroom, and then my brother was murdered years later. And then I had a divorce prior to that, and my best friend Lisa died, who was an incredible woman, a great artist, of cancer when she was 25. And the list goes on. And let me tell you, there were days I was really down. I didn't understand why this all happened. And you know what? Sometimes we can't understand. We just can't. But what I do know is you have to feel your pain and you have to embrace it. And if we dismiss it, I'm going to tell you, it's going to come back over and over again. And it will, 1,000-fold. We're really good about not looking at, or allowing ourselves to feel what we really need to feel. We need to be able to feel this. But I'm going to share a story with you that is very beautiful, because in terms of hope, what I believe is that the soul goes on and it never dies. And I've been very fortunate to have experiences with my brother who passed in 1995, and he was murdered. He was brutally murdered. And I got a phone call early in the morning from a woman. And I was a therapist in private practice at the time, as I still am. But I had just taken my children out for a long walk, and we lived on Cape Cod. And one of my daughters had her friend over, so we were actually walking back to this other young girl's home to drop her off. My two girls came back in, and we got back to our house, and you can smell these amazing and luscious brownies baking in the oven, because my girls and I had just mixed them and put them together and put them in the oven before we left. And as I was getting the pan out, all of a sudden the phone rang. And I answered the phone and I said, "Hello?" I couldn't make out who was on the other phone. I didn't even know who the voice was. I thought it was one of my clients. It was so distressing. I heard this primordial scream literally coming from the other end of the phone. And my mother finally said, it registered that it was my mother. And she screamed, "Are you sitting down?" And my knuckles went white against the wall. And I go, "What's going on?" She goes, "Your brother was murdered." And I screamed out, "Who did it?" And then I hung up the phone because I was so in shock. I felt like a string was going over my head. I didn't know which way to turn. I didn't even know how to feel. I didn't even know where to look. But I turned around. I saw my daughters' mouths gaping open in fear. And they ran all the way back to the house, to their room, which they shared. And I started to pace up and down, up and down. I didn't know what to do. I called my friend, and she came right over to get the girls, because I knew at that time I could not take care of them. And then I started to make calls, even though this experience was so surreal. And ultimately, a lot of the morgue and identify my brother. But let's go time forward. After we buried my brother, and in the Jewish religion, that's how I was raised, you're supposed to bury them the day after. We were not able to do that because it was a murder investigation, which completely, absolutely was horrific for my mother. But we buried him. We buried him outside of New York City, where my father is buried, and then we came back to my house in Cape Cod. And when we came back, there were 40 people in my kitchen, all my beautiful friends. And being part of the Jewish religion, we lament around food, we celebrate around food, we do everything around food. And that's where we were, in the kitchen. And my best friend had stopped and said, "Everybody, you need to listen." And so we all stopped, and you could hear a pin drop. And my best friend said, "Cindy, your brother came to me in a dream last night." Now, she had met my brother Michael about 6 months later, and my brother really liked her, and he also liked her husband. And she said he was wearing his blue suit, and she could never have known that, simply because she couldn't. We buried him in a blue suit. And she said, "This is what he told me." He said, "Debbie, please tell my sister and my younger brother Joshua and my mother that I'm okay, that I'm with my father, and I did not suffer. And to show you that, I'm going to give you the Queen of Hearts." And I said, "Wait, stop." And I really didn't understand what the Queen of Hearts was, but I knew I had to put a clean deck of cards in the drawer in a kitchen, which had never been used. The wrapper had been coming off because it was a very crisp deck, but it was never touched. So I said, stop. And I opened up the drawer, and there was only one card turned over, and it was the Queen of Hearts. And everybody gasped. I went to the phone and called one of my very good friends who was into tarot, and she called me back. And she said, Cindy, tarot means that he's showing you the love of family. That's what it's significant of. He was showing us how much he loved us. But he went to Debbie simply because he knew that she would give us the message, because we were too distraught to even hear anything. And I just want to let you know that the soul goes on. I have had innumerable experiences with my brother. I have had conversations with him. I have been to the other side. The love never dies. The love that you have with your loved ones, it never dies, and you will see them again. Talk to them. They want you to talk to them. Please, it is so imperative that you keep that conversation open. And they will always be there to listen. It may not be at your divine timing, but they will do it at their divine timing. Please trust and know that they love you, they are always with you, and they're always here to help you. God bless.